Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll masach the Sanhedrin daf Pei Zayin. We're going to begin on the bottom of Pei Vav Amud Beis by the Mishnah. Says the Masnisin, Zakin Mamre, regarding a person who is educated, however he is rebellious in his psak. And we're going to describe exactly what this person did, but what he ends up doing, which is considered to be such a significant crime, is a death penalty. Alpi Beistin, Shnemer ki yifoli mimcha davar mishpat. This is something in which he actually will have to be standing in front of the great Sanhedrin, based on this pasuk. However, it describes in a little bit greater detail. Shloisha bati dinim hayu sham. In the Beis Hamikdash, there's actually three groups of bati dinim. Echad yoshem Pesach harabayis. One of them in Yerushalayim was actually by the Pesach Harabayis, the opening of the Harabayis. V'echad yoshem al Pesach HaZara, and then another based in that was by the opening of the Azara. Rashi explains when it says the Pesach Harabayis, that's the Shar HaMizrachi, that's the eastern gate, and again, the other one is in the opening of the Azara. And the most famous is the ones that were built in the Beis Hamikdash, called the Lishkas Hagazis. Says Rashi, Shehi Benoya B'Toicha Azara, Chetz B'Kodesh Chetz B'Choil. So it had this interesting dynamic that it was considered to be partially holy, partially not holy, and there was significance to that because, of course, one is not supposed to be sitting in the Makom HaMikdash, so therefore, because of that, they made it chol. It's discussed at greater length in Masechtas Yoma. Anyway, so those are the three different steps and stages based on the three different courts, and he had to connect himself to all of them. Boin lezeh shel Pesach Harabayis. First, this Zakin Mamre would go to this court by the opening of the Harabayis. V'omer, and he would say, Kach darshti, Kach darshu chaverai, Kach limanati, Kach limdu chaverai. He would say, this is my opinion, this is their opinion, this is what I say, this is what they say. Now this alone is a very interesting thing, that to be a Zakin Mamre, it's not enough that you say, this is my opinion. You actually have to be able to articulate the opinion of the opposing view, which is very interesting. Even a Zakin Mamre has to understand the other person's position. How important is that to learn that Kal V'chomer ourselves, that it's not enough just to say, this is my opinion. Let's say even on for politics, a person says, this is my opinion. You should also understand the opponent's opinion. And once you understand both points of view, maybe you'll even side to the other opinion if you have an open mind. Alternatively, at least that will demonstrate that your opinion is based on all the facts. So im shamu, if the Beis Din heard the psak before, amlahem, he'll tell them what the right answer is. Then they'll go to the next court, which is the Pesach Azara. So you again do the exact same thing. So im shamu, if the second Beis Din knew and heard this before, they would relay. Everyone will go to the Beis Din Hagadol, Shebelishkas Hagazis, Shebimenu Yotzi Taru Chol Yisrael, Shnemer Min HaMakom Ahu Asher Yivchar Hashem. So we'll all go to the same place. Chazur L'Iroi, and that's how it ends. Chazur L'Iroi, he goes to his city. In other words, he continues to teach it the way he likes, although it was against the teachings of the Sanhedrin. Shana v'lomad b'derech shayolomad potter. So if he goes back to his city and teaches it the way that he taught, then he's still potter. However, if he ends up saying, this is the psak, Not that he just like is educating and teaching, oh, the Sanhedrin said this, but this is what I believe. Instead, he actually says, this is what you must do. That is a different level. That he's Mar Hayra. It's only once you actually tell them to do it. So even though he's teaching it, that's not enough. It's to actually tell people that this is what you must do. That's when he's chayiv. However, Talmud shahayru lasois potter. If it's just a student, since a Talmud, people won't listen to him, so then he's going to be potter. Nimsa chamuroi kuloi. So we find being strict as being lenient. Says Rashi, Chaymer shachmir alav sheinu royal hayra adshiu ben arboim shana this chumra, that you have to be at least 40 years to be able to be mar hayra nasl kal paitu ben hamisa. So even though this guy, that's why he's called a zaken, not just because he has chachma, but also since he's fit to paskin, he must be a certain age. Physically, he has to be an old enough person. So we'll call him 40. That doesn't mean a 40-year-old's a zaken. But the point is that this is a chumrah, that a person that cannot be more hara until he's 40. So even though this guy may be educated, but he's considered to be like a Talmud, and therefore he's not able to paskin. And since he can't paskin, he cannot be considered to be a zaken mam. Tanu Rabban. Kifla mimcha davar, says the Gemara on Pei Zayin Amud Aleph. B'mufla sheba beis din akasim adaber. We're talking about the one who is mufla, the experts of beis din, which excludes, as we said, a talmud, not a student. Mimcha ze yoyitz. This is providing advice, such as being ma'aber the shana. That's also considered to be giving advice. The chenu aimer mimcha, as it's cited in Psukim. So this is if he has some dispute as to what year, in a particular year, should there be an other sheni, should there not be. Yaitzem chayshev al Hashem ra yoyitz blial. So that's mimcha yaitze chayshev al Hashem ra yoyitz blial. So you see the word mimcha, and it's a yoyitz, someone who again is giving this advice. Davar zu halacha. So when you give halacha, you're speaking. So that's halacha. L'mishpat zadin, which is exer shava. Ben dam l'dam. So he ends up disagreeing with regard to a din regarding blood. Ben dam nida, dam leida, dam ziva. So we'll see exactly what are the disputes. What does he say? What do we actually paskin like when it comes to all these things? Ben din ladin, ben din nefashis, din imaminus, din imakas. Again, we're going to go through each of these. Ben nega and nega, with regard to saras, ben negi adam, negi batim, negi begadim. So he has all these different opinions when it comes to what constitutes saras in the different places. Divrei elo hacharamim, harochin, v'hakdeshos. Again, all this is going to be explained momentarily. Urivos, there are quarrels, fighting. Zu hashka sota urifa segla v'taharas mitzayra, b'sharecha zu leket shich peya. We'll see why b'sharecha means leket shich and peya. V'kamta b'beistin, v'alisa, that you go from the base and you go up. Malam sh'beistin mikdash, beis mikdash gavon me'eretz Yisrael, me'eretz Yisrael gavon mikol ratzos. As we saw in the last parak and fourth parak in Masechtas Kedushin, Eretz Yisrael is the highest of all places, whether that's physically. Of course, Yerushalayim is in the Har Bayis is built on against a mountain, so it's the tallest or spiritually taller. Okay, Eretz Yisrael gavon mikol ratzos el hamakoim malamid shaham makoim goyrub, that it's the place in the Beis Hamikdash is what causes this. In other words, that even if he does everything by the book to be considered to be a zaken mamre, he has to be done by the Makom HaMikdash. Fine. Now, Bishlam by Beis HaMikdash Gavon Eretz Yisrael. This is the same as the Gemara in Kedushin. Dechsev Lisa. It says beferish that you go up to the Beis HaMikdash. El Eretz Yisrael Gavon Mikol Ratzos Manoli. How do we know Eretz Yisrael is the tallest, the highest level? Dechsev L'chein Hini Yamim Boi Nom Hashem. that V'yomer Chai Hashem Asher Ha'elu Us B'nei Yisrael Me'eretz Mitzrayim, that Hashem took us up from Egypt. So certainly, in comparison to Mitzrayim, Eretz Yisrael is taller, higher up. Kiim Chai Hashem Asher Ha'elu Asher Hevi Es Zer Beis Yisrael Me'eretz Safayna Umikol Haratzos Asher Hidachim Sham. That from all the lands, so it's not just Mitzrayim, but He brought us up from all the lands. V'yoshvel El Admasam, and we are dwelling on our lands. Okay, so that piece is something that we're going to basically break up and describe. So Tanu Rabbanan, Zakin Marmeinu Chayev Ella Al Divrei Shizdainai Kares Shkagasoi Chatas Dirameir. It can't be that they just argue about a din of whether or not a person should hold 2 hours between milchiks and fleshik, 6 hours, 8 hours. It's got to be something. Not that wouldn't be significant, but that wouldn't be enough for him to be chayiv misa. It's got to be something which is a kares situation if it was done b'mezid, and you would have to bring a karban chatas if it was done b'shoigig. Rabbi Yehuda Omer al davar she'ikodim b'divrei Torah. That has to be something in which is connected to the Torah. Pirush b'divrei Seifrim. However, its interpretation is through the sages. Rabbi Shimon Omer afilu dikduk echad medukdei Seifrim. No. Even if it's something which is just one dikduk, one detail from the details of our seifrim, of the scribes, that would be enough taka to hold this person as a zakin mamri. Okay, this is going to be question 7, because this is a fundamental machlokus by zakin mamri. Al elu harois mischayev zakin mamri misa. So again, Rameir holds only if it's b'mezes kares and shogeg chatas. The second opinion is only something which is the ikar is min Torah. However, the perush is from the Seifrim. And Rav Shimon says even dikduk echad medikdukei Seifrim. Then all this is going to be elaborated on soon. And this is the same question as TB7. So let's just mark this down. TB7 is the exact same question as question 7. Okay. All right, so now let's continue. So my time at Rameir. Why does Rameir say that's only if the person paskin about something which is be chayiv kares? So Gomer Davar, he learns out a gzer shava. Ksiv hacha, it says here ki mimcha davar lo mishpat. Ksiv hasam, and it says over there benelam davar me'eni hakahal. So it says that the matter has been concealed from the kahal. Malhol davar shechayvos danakaris ashkagaso chatas afkan davar shechayvos danakaris ashkagaso chatas. So that pasuk over there is talking about dafka, a situation where you'll be chayv kares, as it's brought down in Masechtas Horis. So too, that's what it's referring to here as well. Fine. Rabbi Yehuda al pi ha-Torah she-Yerucha. Adi-ika Torah ve-Yerucha. So he says that it has to be ikar ben ha-Torah, because it says al pi ha-Torah, and it says asher Yerucha, which is divrei Seifrim. So therefore, it has to be that it's taught, and then it's from the Torah, and it's taught through the divrei Seifrim. Now, Shimon Omer asher Gidocha min ha-makam hahu afil kol dahu. Anything. It just implies any type of statement. So Amar Rav Huna Barchin L'Rava Tirgum Li L'Hamas Nisa L'Rameir. This entire piece that we saw on the top of this Amud, please explain to me how we're going to dispute. Now, Shimon's easy; they can argue about anything about Dam Nida. But we want to know, when it comes to all of these things, where do we see B'meizu B'chayv Chatos? So you have to now dissect this entire piece above to fit into the sheet of Rameir. So Amalei Rabbi Rav Papa. So go out and we'll basically interpret. We saw that. What does that mean? So he said, someone that knows how to be able to determine should there be other sheni, to understand is it a mole, is it a chaser, kudanan. So they can testify that we could be maver the year all the month of Adar to make another sheni. Sha'imrim ad Purim. and some say that you have until Purim. Now, De'il Hai Gisa, Kashari Chametz B'Pesach, Ve'il Hai Gisa, Kashari Chametz B'Pesach. So what is this dispute? The question is, when is the cutoff time? Is it until Purim? And then at that point we can say, okay, Purim's over. We have 30 days until Pesach, and that's it. You can't now make an Adar Sheni. Now, if you did make an Adar Sheni at the wrong time, let's say it was already the 28th of Adar, and you paskin that you're not allowed to, and someone else says you can, so then Pesach is going to be on the wrong time, which means the time that you're celebrating Pesach is really nothing. And then the month in which you're not celebrating Pesach, you're eating chametz when you're supposed to be eating matzah. So that's the problem. Rashi says, "V'tayim mafarish m'sechtas Rosh Hashanah, d'mina Purim hiskil lidrosh b'hilchos Pesach." Once Purim comes, you're supposed to start learning about Pesach. The sign is shom b'hilchos Pesach, kainim Pesach lamed yoim, and therefore v'chi marchik luhu l'sayis l'shulchei beistin shkvar shamu min hadarshanim lasos Pesach b'soiv lamed yosel zuzli b'chametz. So once people are learning about Pesach already, because there's all these hilchos Pesach, because Pesach is in less than 30 days, because otherwise why are we learning about it? So if someone now comes and say, oh, by the way, we're pushing it off, no one's going to listen to him, and they're going to celebrate Pesach now until not the time afterwards. So that's the question. Okay. Either way, that's obviously eating chametz is b'mezid on Pesach is an Isser Kares. Davar zeh halacha zu hilchis echad asar. This is the halachas of echad asar. The Levinate Mar Asiri Rabbi Yochanan Amri Asiri Kitchi. 10 is like 9. Rabbi Shimon Lachash Amri Asiri echad asar. 10 is like 11. Rabbi Yochanan Amri Asiri Kitisha. That 10 is like 9. Machi boy Shimor, just like 9 needs to be watched. Avasiri boy Shimor. So what is this referring to? So Rashi tells us, let's just find this here. Hilchos echad aser. Yom acharon shel Yud Aleph. The end of the 11th day should be nida and nida, between nida and nida. So what is exactly the status? So there's 7 days of dam nida, and then we have 11 days which are called dimei ziva. This is only the midaraisa. If she sees she is a shomeres yom, she's being shomeres yom. She's waiting to see what will happen. So if she saw on the first on day 11, there's no point, since Yimei Ziva is only until 11. But if you see for the first time on, say, day 9, for sure she does have to count. But if day 10, if she sees it on day 10, she can't become a Ziva, because there's only 10 and 11. You have to see 3 times. So she should be mutter. So the question is, must she be a Shomeres Yom, a Shomeres Yoim, if on those days? So Yoim Achron Shel Yud Aleph should be Nida Nida. If let's say she sees on the 11th day, so those are considered to be Dam Ziva. Says Rashi, Im Ra'asa Gimel Yom Ritzuvim. We know that if she saw 3 consecutive days during Yemei Ziva, Havi Ziva LaKarbon, then she would have to bring a carbon. L'tfilas Mayim Chayim. So the question is, what do we do on this day? So now let's go back, so we can understand this is a Dam Nida question, which is an Isser Kares. So what happened over here? So again, so Zehalacha, Zu Hilchos Echad Aser, the 11th day of the Yemei Ziva, the Inmar. Asiri, if she saw on the 10th day, which again, if she saw on day 10, that's 10, 11, she's not going to be a Zava, because it's only if you see 3 days consecutively. Rabbi Yochanan Armi Asiri Kachi, he says, no, it's like the 9th, therefore she still has to count. On the 9th, for sure you have to count, because it's 9, 10, 11. On the 10th, he also requires. The 10th is like the 11th, and therefore there's no point of her being a Shomer Shom, because she can't see 3 days consecutively. Rabbi Yochanan Asiri Kachi, so he says, no, it's like the 9th. Why? Because Machi, just like the 9th, we know Boy Shimor, she needs to be a Shomer Shoim, because it's possible she'll see on day 10 and 11, and she'll have 3 days consecutive. So Afasiri Boy Shimor, he also requires it on day 10 as well. So that's the whole question. So says Rashi, he says, according to one opinion, it's only if it's fit that you could consecutively see for 3 days, which would be on day 9. Therefore, you don't have to count on day 10 either. If let's say they're arguing about this, so therefore that's a case of kares. Okay. But so Afasiru lo boy shiva mishpat zehadin, as we continue to pay zayin and beis din bitoy me'anusasoi, when it comes to your daughter not from your wife but out of wedlock. We've had this in Yavamas, we had it before here. So we have Gzer Shava, that taka, it's an Isakares. So it says Taisus Bekul Mishkach Plugda Bar Mahai V'retz Loimer De'en Zakin Mamri Moide Gzer Shava Zu. Just saying like he disagrees with Gzer Shava, even though we find again that there's an Isser of not just taking your daughter, but even bitu manusasai. Ben dam ladam, ben dam ladam, which says ben dam nida, ben as dam leida, and dam ziva. So we have to go through all 3 of these. Dam nida, which kind of similar to what we had before, but let's see what this is. But put the kavi ben mahal of rabban, the side did not. Dam hayorik. Let's say you have this yellowish blood. So a kavi ben mahal matamacham matarin. The question is, this particular type of a color blood, is it considered dam nida or not? And therefore, as he paskins, so will be. Dam leida, birth. But put the Rabbi Levi, the Idmar. Rabbi Omer ma'ayin echad who hatayra timasa v'hatayra tihirasai. So if you have a springs of blood, that will be matami and matahir. Levi Omer shnei mayanais hein. There's 2 flows. Nistam hatame niftach hatar. That was closed tame, open tar. Nistam hatar niftach hatame. So what exactly is this talking about? So this is, as we know, a boy. There's 7 days of tumah. Then you're tahar for 33 days, which is called dam leida, those next 33 days. And that doesn't make her tameh. A girl is 14 days she's tameh, and then she has 66 days of dam leida. But is it really different dam? So what does that mean, being dam leida to this? So the question is, at what point do we say that there is this change in dam? Is it necessary that there should be the stop of ma'ayin echad, that this spring of blood, it's just one is tameh and one's tahar, or does it need to be nistam? Says Rashi, dam haba b'shvuayim, the blood that comes during those 2 weeks, shel nekeva shehu tameh, v'dam haba la'achar shvuayim shehu tahar b'ma'ayin echadhu. It all comes from the same source. So during the first 2 weeks, again for nekeva, as Rashi brings down, not sure why it talks about nekeva, but the first 2 weeks it's tameh, and then after those 2 weeks, she becomes tahar. Even though it's the same source, that's just like the Gezeres HaKosov. That's what the Torah says. However, according to the other sheet, that's nistam hatameh, that l'achar shivuayim v'niftach hatahar. It's actually one opens, one closes. So the question is, what's the nafkamina? Says Rashi, my binayu, b'shoifas mitaych shivuayim. If she saw dam consistently from day 14 to 15, or day 80, or let's just say from day 14 to day 15, or 7 to 8, so avi tame ad shetifsaik shah deneba nistam hatame. It's necessary that she has had to stop seeing dam, because otherwise, since it's continuous flow, so even though it's the next day, it's still connected to the dam tumah. Okay. As opposed to, he says, no, it's ma'ayin echad, it's just exeris akosa, that's it. It doesn't make a difference if it's a continuous flow. Okay, it's important. That was a very important Rashi to explain what the nafkamin is, to know why, if you would paskin one way or the other, it would have halachic ramifications. Dam ziva b'putat Rabbi Lezer Rav Shimon. Dinan. Kishdam, let's say a woman is having difficulty in labor. Shloshi yamim, 3 days, b'toich echad aser yom, within the 11 days, im shafasam esel es v'yolda, if she stopped labor, me'esel es, for 24 hours, v'yolda, then she gave birth, harzu yoledis b'zoiv, diva Rabbi Lezer. He holds that she's considered to have given birth as a ziva. It says Rashi, v'isha kizav zoiv dama yomim rabim, v'tanya b'perik b'nois kutim, it says, dama, the dam of a ziva, machmas atzma v'lo machmas vlad. It's from herself, and it's not dam ziva. Magid, to teach us, says Rashi, shadama kishoy, the blood which is coming from her tsar, shiatza kainim of vlad, before she gives birth, machmas sar hakishoy, enum aviledi ziva. So that blood is not considered to make her a zav. V'koshikein dam shel achar vlad, certainly the blood that comes afterwards, avlaim ra'asa gimel yamim mitzufim. So she saw 3 consecutive days, mitoich kushi, due to this difficulty, v'safasa kainim yisis avlad, and she had no sar before the birth. Yom echad me'esel es, sheshakta, it stopped. V'nacham et sar, and she stopped her pain. V'achach yolda bein b'toich bein mitoich kushi bein b'toich shufi harizu yoledis b'zoiv. And here's the key line: Lafi shekivan shalei achar gimel. After 3 days, vasa, it stopped. In other words, that since the sar stopped before giving birth, but the blood flowed always, it continued. So Yomi milsa the lav machmas vlad also. It must be that blood was not because of the child. Vanasas behen zava. So therefore, it's all totally whether or not she's a zav, whether or not it's linked to the birth. So if she had sarleda, but then the sarleda stopped, so then and she gave birth, but there was still continuous flow of blood. It wasn't linked to the dam ziva, to the dam leda, but rather dam ziva. That's the idea behind this piece. So let's see this again. So let's say the pain stopped within 24-hour period. Viola, she gave birth, so she stopped the tsar, but she gave birth and the blood continued. Harzi letus b'zoiv. So according to Rabbi Lezer, that's considered to be dam ziva, because we say it's not machmas vlad. Rabbi Yeshua Omer laila v'yoyim, night and day, just like kaleli Shabbos v'yoymai, just like Shabbos is again night and day. Shesvasa min atzar v'loy min adam. So again, the question is the extent of how long this period is for her to not equate it to the vlad, but rather to dam ziva. Bein din ladin, bein din mominus, bein din nefashis, din imakas. So dimri mominus, both of Shmuel and Rabbi Avoy. Demar Shmuel, Shnaim shadanu denem din. El shenekroim beis and chotzu. Rabbi Avoy yomer whatever call in din and din. So the question is, if you have a case of 2, is that considered to be enough to be able to say a person is that case will actually do anything? So the question is, okay, that's true, but that's a case of dini mominus. So then, why would that constitute kares? So Rashi, let's see this again. Shmuel shnaim shadinem din el shenikru based in chotzev Rabbi Avoy emer l'divrei kol ein dinen din. Okay, so how exactly is that a case of dini mominus? How is that a chiv kares? Hopefully we'll answer that question. Okay, l'divrei kol ein dinen din. Dini nefashis bepluta the Rabbi v'Rabbanan. The Sanya Rabbi yoyim v'nasat nefesh tachas nefesh mamoin. So it means that you have to pay money. Actually, your person is killed. This is regarding to killing the vlad inside the woman. Malho and mamoy nafkan mamoy. So then it's only monetary, and therefore, obviously, what you're going to paskin over here, says Rashi. Actually, Rashi tells us a different situation. Unlike what I said, it's mimischaven hargat zeh v'hargat zeh. In a situation where your intention was to kill one person, but you end up killing someone else, u'mechayev bei Rabbi mamoin, Rabbanan patri. According to Rabbi, you have to pay damages. Rabbanan say you'll be pater. Let's say if the Yarshim take away the money, the Haroig Memoino, the Hayreg Upater, whether or not they can keep the money, Patule. So Zakin Mamre Vikidish Boss Isha, or Rabbi Mikadashas, Rabban and Mikadashas. The Asi Inish Achrina, Vikidsh Mikadashas, so Shani Harichiv Karis Badavar. So that is the case of Mammon, right? Also. That's Rashi explains, is the whole problem is that if the monies were in this person's hands incorrectly, so then the question is, if he was Makadish a woman with it, is it a good Kedushin or not? And if it wasn't a good Kedushin, and the second guy marries her, or vice versa, it is a good Kedushin, and the second, and we paskin maybe it's not a good Kedushin, but and she ends up being with the wrong man, that she's really married to someone else. So that's also the case of Dini Mominus. Dini Makis beputed Rabbi Shmuel Rabbanan nan. Makis begimel mishum Rabbi Shmuel Emer bechav gimel. So what exactly is it? How you get Malchus either with 3 people in a court, or do you need to have 23 people in a court? So that is what that's referring to. Fine. Says Rashi, V'im Hilkuhu Gimel Rabbi Shmuel Chayev Lo Mammon. So if you give him Malchus, so or the question is, are you also Chayev Mammon? Kishar Chayev B'Chaveroi. Just like anytime you hit someone, the Mekadosh supposed to Isha. So again, the question is whether or not there's a Chayev Mammon is attached to it or not. So therefore, the question is, was that money properly yours? Fine. Bein negla nega bein nigoi adam nigoi batim nigoi badim. It's begadim. So nigoi adam, when it comes to saras on a person, is bepluted Rabbi Shmuel Rabbana did not. Im baharis kaidam usayar, if the baharis came before the hair, halavan before the white hair, tame. The imsayer lavan kaidam baharis, if the white hair came before the baharis, tahar. Safek tame. However, if it's a safek, we say that the person is tame. We don't know which one came first. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Keha. My Keha, what does that mean? Weak. Amarava Keha Tahar. So in this situation, it's Ki'ilu, like it's a weakened nega, and therefore we're just going to say it's Tahar. So again, whether or not this person is Tami or Tahar has significant dinim, says Rashi, because the Rabbanan im nichnas l'mikdash chayiv kares. Whether or not you're Tami or Tahar will matter if you enter into the base of Mikdash. If you do nothing, that's no big deal. But if you enter the base of Mikdash, you can be Chayiv Kares. Nigoi Batim beputed Rabbi Shmuel, the Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbanan. Dinan, Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon, Oyel, and Abayas Tame, Ashura, Kishnei Grisin al Shnei Avanim. It has to be on 2 stones, but Shnei Ksom on 2 walls, the Karen Zavius, on a corner. Because the Psukim, it says Karen, Kranois. So it's only if you see it on the corner. Arko kishnei grisin v'rachvo kagris. Fine, that's the measurement. So my time, so the Gemara actually says it here. My time, Rebbe is Rabbi Shimon ksiv kir ksiv kiros. It says wall. It says walls. So eze kir shehu kiros. What walls? Like 2 walls. Have the ermezek karen zavis in the corner. So the question is again: is the house tamei, etc.? You become tamei in connection to it. Then you enter the base of Mikdash. It can be chayiv kares. So that is that. Nigoi begadim beputa the Rabbi Yonasan, the Rav Nosson ben of Tulmus of Rabbanan, son of Rav Nosson ben of Tulmus Amar. Menayin, how do we know, as we continue to pay Chesed Aleph, la pericha bebegadim shehi tahira, that says Rashi im paruach haperach hatzaras v'nismali kol began. Let's say it fills up your entire garment, your tahara. So nemer karcha v'gavachas ba'adam. The nemer karachas v'gavachas bebegadim. Malhon parach b'kul tar navkan parach b'kul tar. Just like when it comes to a person, if you become your entire body is filled with saras, even though it seems counterintuitive, you're tahar. It's only when there's a part of your body has the tsaras. So too when it comes to the begadim. Now, not everyone holds like that. Again, whether you will paskin tamei tahar will therefore end up turning out whether or not the din is that the person will entering into the heichal, into the Beis Hamikdash, can be chayiv kares. We're going to stop there. Let's look at question TA6. Ki foli mimcha davar bein dam ladam bein din ladin. Be'eza pluta hazakin mamrei mishkachas bedin malchus umay nafka min mazel indin kares. So that's a very great question because you mamish need Rashi to understand that. But this is TA6. That's why it's an excellent question. So he says like this. Let's just find it first in the Gemara. So when it comes to Dini Makas, it's a machlokus between Rabbi Shmuel and the Rabbanan. One says you need a court of 3 to give a Makas. Rabbi Shmuel says you need 23. So, and then Rashi says over here, V'im halkuhu gimel, if you give Malchus of 3, according to Rabbi Shmuel, which is not enough, chayev l'mammon, you're still chayev this guy, he still has to pay. Kishar chayev l'chaver, just like any other time you would hit. And mekadosh mosa isha, and therefore that money is now this other guy's. Now Rabbanan bedin halkuhu, even with 3, if you gave him Malchus, that's proper. Therefore, he had no business to take his money because Kedei Rishasa, you can only give him one punishment. And since he already got Malchus, you don't take his money. Tafas Memoino, if you grab his money, which is not yours, it still keeps, he has it, the Kiddishbo Ein Mekadeshas. So that is the explanation of that, which is, again, a very important question. Question TB8, Madul Nuschayev Akav Menohal Misa Al Shenechach Chacham B'Lishkas Agazes B'Dal Devarim Ad Kan.